What's up, everybody? We are here. We are live. We are back. Football time. I know everybody's very excited about fantasy baseball, right, Howard? You've got people clamoring for the baseball talks, right?
There's a lot of clamoring going on right now for the baseball talks. There's no doubt about it. But listen, it's the NFL playoffs. We're hitting the conference championships. Had a great divisional round weekend. Well, I had a great Sunday, not a great Saturday, but my Sunday was just fine. So I'm ready to still keep talking some football for the time being.
Me too, dude. Me too. I've had people texting me, hitting me up saying, I missed the football show. We haven't gone anywhere. We're here. We're on just a little limited basis, combing it back, but we're ramping it back up too, right? We ease into the Super Bowl, enjoy the Super Bowl, take it all in, some real football, the way real football fans should, just watching the games, rooting for the outcomes, and then we get into the gritty stuff. We get into the free agency, the dynasty stuff. All that's coming. We're going to get started on that tomorrow with quick outs and on Friday with Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco. But here on this show today, we are talking divisional rounds. We're going to hit on who we think is going to win. We're going to hit on some underdog picks with our buddies over there. We're going to tell you who we're using in those dicey one-and-done leagues. We're going to maybe talk about some FFPC leagues. There's still so much going on, Howard. So why don't we get into it and just, since this is the first football show of the week, talk about the games that happened this past weekend, right? Why don't we wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where do you want to start? Let's start with, we might as well just go Saturday into Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with Ravens Texans. I genuinely believe that the Texans were going to put up a much bigger fight.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of funny. Like, I had these two games nailed, but reversed, right? Like, I had the Texans covering the spread. I had the Niners blowing out the Packers. They're not like necessarily like totally blowing them out, but at least covering the spread there. And it was the total reverse. Listen, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, for me, that whole game, Coop, was just, it was a, whatever that halftime speech was, whatever those adjustments that were made at the half, like you kind of sensed it, because in the first half, the only touchdown that the Texans scored was on that punt return. Their offense was going absolutely nowhere. CJ Stroud didn't look like he had his timing with Nico Collins. It was kind of, so you were like worried about the Texans there, but you were like, what the hell are the Ravens doing? Are they, like, is this the team that would like cough up all of these like late leads in the second half again and whatever? And then they came out in the second half and they were like, boom, 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 boom.
Right. It was,
right? It knocked them out.
It felt like the cat playing with the mouse, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like, you know what I mean? Like, you knew it wasn't going to get away, but it's like, it just ended already, right? So I felt that in the first half. I was watching, I was like, oh, you got to be careful. You let them, but in the end, they did. They're just the better team, and that's the thing though, like that. It's hard to wrap your head around from the outside, but when you hear the players talk about it, how important it is to have guys that have been there before and do all that stuff. This is where it comes through. John and Pemba makes a lot of money on it with these rookies on the road too, because You know what I mean? Tom, every game is a home game for Mercedes Lewis, right? He probably has a favorite spot in the life. 40 years old, still out there.
Mark it off on your bingo card. You had the Mercedes Lewis inside 5 minutes of the show.
One per show. But he's 40 years old. He's played in every stadium probably 20 times at this point, right? I was actually looking at his numbers, over 5,000 run blocking snaps in his career for that guy. But so he's been there, right? He's done it all. Whereas CJ Stroud, man, some of these cities he's never even been there. He probably doesn't even know where to get lunch. So having a Ravens team that's been to all these playoffs games, they've won games in New England against Tom Brady, John Harbaugh has. It just makes all the difference. So as far as these go, because we're going to talk about the Ravens and the 49ers and all the teams that are still in it when we get to those previews. So I want to ask you about the Texans, man, just in general. You have to feel good if you're a Texans fan. Colby Conway is feeling great. They hit on both their early picks, which, if you got 1 out of 2, that would have been fine. But Will Anderson looking good. CJ Stroud looking awesome. They're going to get Tank Dell back. They got Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. We'll see there. But what do you think's next for this team? Like, how do you build off something like this going?
If I'm the Texans, first and foremost, I'm going to try and bring Dalton Schultz back for at least another year or two. I know he's going to want the security of it, and maybe you give him a 2-year deal and just, Dalton Schultz to me is the type of guy that you want to keep inside the organization, let him play. And, oh, what? You want to be our tight ends coach? Yeah, let's kind of like investigate that, because I just think that having that security for CJ Stroud is big. Like, the
Huge.
ones you don't. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the Texans' end of their season would have been like had they not had blocked on a goal line carry? I mean, can you imagine if Tank Dell was still available? So I think you've got your core in there, right? You've got your, you've got your quarterback. Devin Singletary does not have enough mileage on him for me to say that he's going to be, somewhere else. So I think he's solid there. Nico, Tank Dell, and then you've got Hutchinson and Mechie, who are both, reasonable guys that, like, you're going to have Tank Dell probably working out of the slot the majority of the time. And then you put Mechie or Hutchinson on the other side there. So you've got your foundation already set. Defensively, you've got your foundation already set for the Texans. This is going to be a matter of just, drafting to fill in the parts. And then from there, just
polishing it, right? Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. But, defense usually takes longer to overhaul than the offense, right? Because, you're picking up pieces that 3-4 and 4-3, and you got to move it around. But I think they did a pretty good job this first time around. So, yeah, solidify it in the trenches. With Singletary, I like Singletary. You do as well with Dameon Pierce. I think they can get by again this year, and then I think maybe the following year is when you go all in with the hired guns, right? You go when you get you draft a running back, or you sign the top corner, pay him whatever he wants. So,
right.
But I think they could potentially compete this upcoming year. So we'll see on that. The second game on Saturday, 49ers, Packers, man, and the Packers had them up against the ropes, man. Like, they had to come back and win this game. They did do it. Of course, not having Deebo Samuel, that was that made things really scary, man. I think that kind of showed. Just imagine if they lost Christian McCaffrey, or they, or lost George Kittle. The fact that they really just leaned on Juwan Jennings kind of proved that the game plan was going to go through Deebo. Right, Juwan Jennings got so many targets in that Deebo role when he came in that it does make me a little nervous for this next round.
Listen, I might live in the Bay Area. It doesn't mean I'm a Bay Area fan by any means. So, listen, I'm totally fine with. I'm Team Lions this weekend, right? I'm definitely. I'd rather see it like that. Listen, I think that what Shanahan does with the Niners is fantastic, and and we saw it on display. But you're right. You had to lean on Kittle a little bit more. Juwan Jennings was a heavy lean. Doesn't sound like McCaffrey's really all that healthy. I know that he was dealing with a calf. He was dealing with that. Now they were talking about, if I see one more person with that dude like massaging his quad, like pushing that big, it's like the crease.
Chuck Bass had the best one. It was. Did you see his?
I was watching it in real time, and I was like, "Well, this is going to end up all over the internet." And it was either or Jason Kelce shirtless and doing that whole thing.
Jason Kelce, dude, what a legend, man! I love him, dude. He's the best.
But I think the big takeaway from this one here, and like you said, we're going to be talking Niners, till the cows come home this entire week. I think the biggest takeaway, and it's the same thing with the Texans, the foundation of what you've got right now in Green Bay is really something to be positive and build on, because let's face facts. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks. Like, you don't need to touch wide receiver for a little while. That's a tremendous foursome, because they're diverse. Each guy can do multiple things over the course of the season. So I love the passing game. Jordan Love is definitely somebody who can take it to another level. They got to make sure that if they're not going to, if Aaron Jones, I don't even know, I think Aaron Jones is a free agent at the end of this year, isn't he?
I think they extended him.
Did they extend him?
Yeah. I think he's got one more year. They worked it out where he helped them free up space on one end to get more years in the back end.
Then what you need to do is you need to have a complimentary back that you trust, that is versatile, because AJ Dillon is not versatile. And the problem is and you saw it with Green Bay. Their offense was totally different with Jones versus without.
Right. Yeah. We thought he was a handcuff plus. He's more like a handcuff minus, dude. He was he was worse. He was worse without Aaron Jones there. It's crazy how that happens.
The worst part about Aaron Jones's injuries was people hitting me up being like, "Should I start AJ Dillon? It's AJ Dillon season right now."
Is it?
It's never AJ Dillon.
No, it's not, dude. It's crazy. It's all like Tony Pollard too. Almost was better with Zeke. You know, maybe there is something to this 1-2 punch business.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, it is crazy. And I will say, I mean, like the Packers, man. You look at these pass catchers, right? And the oldest one on the team is that guy Samari Torrey. He's 25. All these dudes are 24 or younger. They're all signed not just through 2024, but also 2025. So you got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed out of the slot, Dontavian Wicks ready to go at a moment's notice because he jumped in. I mean, there are people that are coming out and saying that Dontavian Wicks maybe deserves a role over either Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, and I don't necessarily think it's crazy. I think Christian Watson still deserves, another shot. He technically led the team in target share, but I mean, it's wild. I want to ask for fantasy football purposes, just an early look, Howard. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. You could draft Love and skip the guessing game. You could pick a specific guy and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to, even if you take the first guy or second guy, this is my guy. I'm going to go with this guy. You could wait and take whoever's cheapest, or you could just fade them all entirely. I mean, your initial thought for next year, Howard?
Are you talking Packers receivers?
So it's like, yeah, Packers receivers. Like, your initial thought is like, do you have one guy that you love, or is it like, I'm going to take whoever's cheapest, or I'll take nobody, or maybe you'll take Jordan Love and just get exposure to the Packers that way. I mean, if you had an approach, which one?
If I was looking, I would probably say that I would prefer like if I'm going to draft Jordan Love, and pair up a guy, I would say that probably Jaden Reed is probably my first target, because he plays that Deebo Samuel hybrid role, and we like that. And we've seen the lean there. I mean, chest injury notwithstanding. If it's full point PPR, I don't mind going for Romeo Doubs, because I actually think that Doubs is like, if you wanted to equate it somewhere like Pittsburgh, you had Deontay Johnson, who was getting, the targets and moving all the chains. George Pickens, the deep threat. Christian Watson, the deep threat. Romeo Doubs, the guy who was being relied on even more. But and Doubs does have some deep playability. We did see that, and he's great with yards after the catch. So I would probably rank it Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. Then I would probably go with Christian Watson, and then Dontavian Wicks. I love all four of them, which is why I'm so happy for the Packers. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm happy for the Texans and the Packers. They lost this time around, but these are both teams that you want to invest in heavily for dynasty formats right now. If you're doing a first-time dynasty, like, I'm diving into Stroud, Love, the receivers. Musgrave looks great. They seem to favor Musgrave, but then they were like, you know what? This Tucker Kraft kid, he ain't so bad.
He can ball too. Yeah. So it's funny. I went back and I looked. I was like, what did that Steelers team look like when Antonio Brown was a rookie? Because they went to the Super Bowl and Antonio Brown hardly played, right? And I'm going through and I'm like, geez, they had Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Wallace, Hines Ward, Antoine Randall L, and Antonio Brown. So no wonder Antonio Brown didn't play much as a rookie. But the reality is you couldn't really go wrong, like you said, in Dynasty. You can like them all because they're going to keep some and some are going to go elsewhere. But Emmanuel Sanders left and he was great. Mike Wallace left and he was great when he felt like playing, right? But like these guys, and in the Super Bowl they played that year, they played the Packers, and the Packers did the same thing. Jordy Nelson was like the fourth wide receiver, but it's because they had Greg Jennings and Donald Driver and all these guys. Sometimes it doesn't mean that if you like one guy, the other guy just goes away. Like, these guys could end up on other teams, and we could see trades. You could see the Ravens, when they drafted Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, traded Hayden Hurst away and kept Mark Andrews. I mean, you could see that happen with Kraft and Musgrave. So for Dynasty, I love them all, but yeah, it is kind of tough for redraft, right? Trying to pick and choose. I think I'm with you on Reed though. He gets a lot of designed plays, gives him a nice floor.
Yeah. I think that, and again, this is something that we're going to be able to sit and watch. And this is just like initial blush. My friend, BJ Levin, he was in the Scott Fishbowl and everything, and he was just he's drafting a dynasty team right now, and he was kind of putting that whole thing together. And he grabbed at one spot, he grabbed Christian Watson. I'm like, yeah, you might as well. I mean,
Right.
am I going to dog this dude for hamstring issues his entire career? No, I'm not, because the Packers do believe in him. And so I want to, I want to be able to give that. But I mean, listen, I love it though, right?
It's so funny talking to BJ Levin, just you bring him up, that like, sometimes I just want to be like, dude, you have an Emmy. I mean, like, can we talk about that? And he's like, he's just a down to earth guy. He just wants to talk about football. I'm
That's
like,
all he wants to do is talk about football.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, can we talk about this? Can we talk about these movie premieres you're going to?
He had the first pick of this dynasty startup draft, and we were talking, right? And I was like, and all of a sudden he said the guy at 3 was like really trying to trade, and what should he do, and blah blah. I'm like, all right, well, you don't want to scare him off, right? So you want to, I said, because to me, I'm fine with, the top 3 QBs in dynasty are Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
I said everybody's going to take Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts 1 and 2 because they're mobile. You've got the rushing upside of Josh Allen. You got the tush push upside of Jalen Hurts, and everybody sees that. Whether or not they can do that successfully without Kelsey, different story. Time for another, time for a topic and for another time.
But he'll still be fine. He'll still be fine.
Yeah, he'll still be fine. But I was like, I love Mahomes, because Mahomes is not like, there's not a lot of wear and tear on this dude, and he's just gelling with Rashee Rice, and they're probably going to bring in, I don't know, Mike Evans or T. Higgins or something like that. If Travis Kelce retires, then Coop's going to go bonkers over Isaiah Gathings, who's going to end up being like this amazing tight end.
They'll figure it out.
Right?
They'll
figure it out.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Mahomes. So I was like, trade down, get the extra pick from this dude. Right. And then because it's a super flex, I was like, just, because you're going to, I was like, I'd rather take Mahomes than Allen or Hurts anyway. So you might as well trade down to 3. They're going to let you get Mahomes. They're going to pass on Mahomes. You're going to grab him. And then boom, you've got these extra picks all over the place. And now he's got, Mahomes and Bijan and Breece Hall. And I mean,
right.
Nico Collins. I mean, it's ridiculous what he put together with that. And he got the QB he wanted the whole time.
Right. And it's so funny too that like it happens with quarterbacks all the time because of other positions. We look at running backs and we're like, oh man, the sands of time are slipping away. But it doesn't happen with quarterback. You look at Tom Brady, like he won 3 Super Bowls before he even played with Gronk. And then he played with Gronk, and then he won more Super Bowls after that. Right? Like the age apex for quarterbacks, it goes a lot longer. We forget that, you almost forget that Peyton Manning basically had 2 different careers as well. Like that he threw 55 touchdown passes with the Broncos, and Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace, and Emmanuel Sanders. But you forget that he had the entire career with Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and all those guys before, you know what I mean? It's like he had 2 full Hall of Fame careers. Same with like, you forget the era of time where Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl throwing to a totally different group of receivers, Greg Jennings and all these guys. And then Jordy Nelson came and gone. Travis Kelce retaring is not the end of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has a lot of ball to play. And our guy, Rashee Rice.
I'm not worried about that at all. I just want, is this a dynasty startup that you'd be interested in here, Coop?
Hit me.
Mahomes,
Yes.
Bijan, Breece Hall, Rashee Rice, Nico Collins, Christian Watson, Dalton Kincaid,
Yes.
Kenneth Walker, Jameson Williams. That was where his draft was at that point right there. See?
Oh boy, if he wins that league, like he could win that league in 2024, and all those dudes are so young. That would be wild.
That's win now with a major eye on the future.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, he's almost in a position like the Packers and the Texans, where hey, if you don't win it this year, it's okay because you know what, you got a nice young base. It's when you go all in and you lose that it hurts. But anyway, back on track. Sunday games: Lions, Bucks, 31-23. This one, you know what? The question I have on this one, and again, we're going to talk about the games this week. We'll talk about the Lions. I want to ask you about the Bucks here, man, because nobody really expected this out of the Bucks, right? To see Mike Evans have arguably his best season ever with Baker Mayfield at a time where Mike Evans said, "Pay me or I'm going to leave." Do you think they showed enough to run it back, or at least run back some, the major pieces? Like, if you're the Bucs, are you sitting there and saying, "Hey, Mike, right, we got something here with Baker. Can you stay?" Right? I mean, what do you think? You think Mike Evans is gone, or do you think they can convince him to try it again?
If I'm Mike Evans, I'm gone.
Okay.
I'm going to a contender. Listen, because one of the things that, and I don't know how much of it is with Dave Canales leaving or not, but Geno Smith obviously regressed from last year to this year. Played a fantastic first season with Dave Canales as his offensive coordinator, and that was not the coordinator, but as the QB coach, right? Is that what Canales was, the QB coach for Seattle under Shane Waldron? Canales leaves, Geno regresses. Now Canales is sitting there as the OC. If I'm Tampa Bay, I obviously want to retain him as my OC and maintain that system there. Will Baker regress if Canales is still there? And is Baker a guy who you think can actually run it back? If I'm Mike Evans, I'm not doing it. And if I'm Tampa Bay, I want a QB for the future.
Right. Yeah, it's just so hard. I almost feel like they ended up in purgatory. That's what happened, because they're gonna have a bad draft pick because they've made it to. What are you doing? So I mean, it's like it's almost all for naught, So it does kind of suck. So yeah, maybe this is a transition year for them, and maybe you look to trade a guy like Chris Godwin too. They've got some young pieces you hold on to, like Antoine Winfield and all these guys, but I don't know. Yeah, it's really tough when you end up in purgatory. You don't want to do that. So. Interesting.
Yeah, they're just playing for the middle. They're playing for the middle right now, and that's and I just think that, I mean, if you're Evans and you're like, if Kansas City's offering you big money over there, if Buffalo's offering you big money to come there, you got to go with the team that you think also. I mean, not just the security, but has the best chance of winning and being a winning franchise. And I mean, maybe that isn't Buffalo. Maybe that's not Buffalo. I'm sorry.
He's gonna get paid bank, Howard.
He's gonna get so much.
I'm going through and I'm starting up my free agent series. I've been going through and kind of combing it out, man. So Michael Pittman, the Colts are probably gonna pay him. He's probably the best combination of youth and ability. After that, you mentioned Mike Evans and T. Higgins. Boy, it gets ugly quick. Calvin Ridley is 29 years old. Right, he's the same. He's 1 month younger than Tyler Boyd. Like, this guy is, it's like that's a big risk. After Ridley, you've got the next best names, in my opinion. We're talking Marquise Brown, Van Jefferson, DJ Chark, Curtis Samuel. I guess like it gets real ugly. The guys at the top. If Michael Pittman wants to hit free agency, he's gonna get the bag thrown at him by somebody. Yeah. The Colts would be very smart to give him a long-term deal because, man, nobody's hitting free agency. And it's bad at tight end, too. You mentioned Dalton Schultz. After him, we're talking Hunter Henry, Gerald Everett, Noah Fant. Like, pass catchers you can't just go get them, man. So it is.
Yeah, this is not a sexy free agent class.
No.
At any of the positions. The quarterback is terrible. Running back is mid at best. Wide receiver, you've got a very top-heavy class there. And, yeah, you're right. I think the Colts would be so stupid. Like, you've got Anthony Richardson, right, and you saw him kind of gel nicely with Michael Pittman. Why wouldn't you want to, help usher along your mobile QB who you want to make a better passer? Why wouldn't you lock him in with a wide receiver one like that?
Give him whatever. Give him whatever he wants, honestly, because, it is bad. Wait, I was trying to rank a top 10, and we're getting down to names like Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson. I mean, there's not, unless you want to go for like an Odell, to maybe try and reclaim a Darnell Mooney or Gabe Davis, but I don't know.
I'd rather trade mediocre tight ends from the 80s with you.
We can get into that, dude, if you want. Dude. I'm down. I was having a conversation this past week where Pete Retzlaff came up, Howard.
That's all right. I was having a conversation with a fellow Jet fan, and we were talking about Johnny Mitchell.
Oh, there you go, dude. Yeah, we were arguing about who the original wide receiver, tight end that played wide receiver was, and obviously people were like Jimmy Graham, blah blah, and then somebody went Kellen Winslow. So I was like, oh yeah, well if you're gonna go Kellen Winslow Senior, then I'm gonna go all the way back. But enough about that. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it could be Mike Evans definitely gonna get paid here. So yeah, I think the Bucs are going to end up in
purgatory.
Last game, Chiefs Bills, and this is one where we talk about the Texans and Packers, and you lose, and it makes you sad, right? But you're fine. The future's still looking good for Bills fans. Man, this is a tough situation because Von Miller's not getting any younger. Stephon Diggs not getting any younger. The team is kind of built to win now. I mean, if you're the Bills, I mean, here's the question. Because football is such a small sample size sport, like, do you go for major shakeups here, or do you sit back and chalk it up and say, hey, you know what? That's variability, right? Like, we lost. The kicking game didn't come through. We could have easily won with this team. I mean, how do you look at it, Howard? It's so hard to, with the way fans are with us geniuses on Twitter overreact to every little thing, like it's so hard to tell the fan base, hey, you know what? Like, we didn't win, but we could have, right?
Right. Well, I mean, listen, let's face facts here, right? You talk about the Bills right now, and one of the key things that we talked about throughout the offseason, it's one of the reasons why we were taking, with Britt Flynn, the under on the win total there. You're talking about a team that just tried to run it back without making the improvements that they needed to make, right? Like, I mean, they got rid of Devin Singletary, and they never brought in an extra wide receiver to go opposite Stephon Diggs. Khalil Shakir, he got some work and everything, but Gabe Davis got some early work, but then Gabe Davis showed his true colors and kind of, fell back. I look at this situation here and I'm like, if I'm Buffalo, yeah, I'm going to try and run it back here one more time. I'm not going to do like any kind of a big shakeup. I don't know. I mean, Diggs is likely gone, right? I mean, I've got, we got all these rumors that he's going to go, join his brother in Dallas, whatever. So you're going to have to deal with, multiple wide receivers. If that means that you draft a strong, because it's a very deep wide receiver class this year in the draft.
In the draft, it is, yeah.
So if you were to lose, let's say you were to lose Stephon Diggs, you were to bring in a guy like a Mike Evans or a T. Higgins, right? Mm-hmm. And then you still have Gabe Davis and you still have Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid is going to be a huge lean for you as well. You can draft, a high upside young wide receiver.
Yeah, try and hit on a Tank Dell or Jaden Reed type. Because if you have the tight ends and you have T. Higgins, then you don't need a big guy, right? You just need somebody who can operate in space a little bit.
Right. So I think that's what they're going to have to do with Buffalo. I think so. I can't ask any of them because they're all still crying.
I know.
I said wide right on the radio yesterday, and it was like, oh, what? You can't say that.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
Yeah, those hurt, man. Those hurt. But it's the Chiefs, dude. What are you gonna do? And again, I just look at the teams that have made the Super Bowl, right? Obviously, the Chiefs, have Kelsey, they have Mahomes, but the Eagles, man, they went out of their way to, like, the wide receivers didn't just show up. They had to go get AJ Brown. They picked Devonta Smith in the first round, right? Like, he was a Heisman Trophy winner,
right?
Like, and you look at what the year before that. I mean, the Bengals obviously have gone crazy at wide receiver. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. They already had Tyler Boyd, and the Rams. They had Cooper Kupp and they had Robert Woods and they had these guys, and they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. the year they made the Super Bowl. Like, you have to almost overdo it. Where I think like Britt was talking about, the Chiefs didn't do enough, and I worry that the Lions didn't do enough either. So we'll have to see. But why don't we take a quick jump over to talk about our sponsors, our guys over at Underdog. Love these cats, and as long as there's a football game out there, we're going to be doing picks. We're going to be going over to Underdog Pick'em contest, checking out what they got going on over there. They not only have picks where you can go and check out guys' lines, take the higher or lower, but they also have the Scorchers mixed in there where I've seen a couple that they're almost working on me, Howard. They're almost enticing me. I was looking at Patrick Mahomes rushing touchdown, and I'm like, he's not going to rush a touchdown. But I'm like, oh, wait, 3X on this? I'm like, he can move a little, right?
One of these days, these Scorcher parlays are going to hit.
They're going to hit, yes. And if you pile enough of them together, you can get up to 100X.
Oh, I've done it. I've done
it too. It looks so stupid.
I had like a 5 or 6 player parlay where they were all Scorchers.
Yeah,
I got up to 100X.
I did up to 100X one time too, just to see, just so I could click that button and have it tell me like, hey, dude, you're getting out of control. Like, you gotta settle down with the Scorchers. But it was all realistic. It could have happened. So It is fun. So as of right now, I'm not seeing any free one they're giving us, Howard. But have you gone through and picked any that you like so far?
Yeah, you know what? First and foremost here, I mean, I want to focus. You know, we love our tackle monster prop, right? Yes. So I'm going to Kyle Hamilton.
Oh, he's the man.
He's gonna be on Kelsey a ton, right? You figure Marlon Humphrey's gonna be back, and they're gonna use Marlon Humphrey because the Ravens are probably out of any of the teams remaining use man coverage the most. I mean, it's probably like 20 to 23% of the time, which is actually significant when you look at the numbers. So if they're going to go into man coverage and you're going to put Marlon Humphrey on Rashee Rice, you got to throw, like, Hamilton's your best guy. He's your best cover guy. You got to throw him onto Kelsey because he's the only one, I think, who's got that, the ability to kind of, defend Kelsey, even though he's he's losing the size battle.
Right. He's poking around. He's always poking around everywhere, man. He gets his hand on the football he might have the defensive player of the year that one he ran through and batted and just grabbed and took. Like, he's been great out of Notre Dame, rookie too, right?
Rookie. Yeah. So 5.5 tackles plus assists. And I figure if he's going to be the one who's going to be eyeballing Kelsey the majority of time, that Kelsey's going to see his target. So 5.5 tackles and assists for Hamilton, who plays all over the place. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm going to go with higher.
Do it. I'm in. All right. I'm going to go. Oh, yeah. Burns doesn't have the whistle going today. We got Adam Bernard behind the glass. Shout out, Underdog. There you go. So I'm going to go with one from this game as well. And here's what I'm doing. I'm looking at another defensive player that's been all over the place, who really transformed into a new player because he was not this guy right from the rip. But L'Jarius Sneed, man, he has over the last couple of years turned into a true shutdown player, man, to the point where you watch Stephon Diggs, they had to hand him the ball in the backfield, give him screens just to get some separation there. I think they're going to take L'Jarius Sneed and just throw him right on Zay Flowers, because Zay Flowers has been not only the best wide receiver for the team, but he's been the only one playing the entire game. The other guys mix and match. Rashad Bateman and Odell only ran 8 routes. So I think Zay Flowers is going to get the Sneed treatment here. They have him set at 48.5 yards. Honestly, in a lot of games, he disappears as it is. He's had a couple games where he had 7 yards. So I'm going to go lower on that 48.5, just thinking that Sneed locks him up.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. We're looking at the possibility of Mark Andrews coming back. And I think that's going to kind of, help pull some targets away from Zay Flowers. They're also going to have to, they're going to have to attack the Chiefs, deeper there as well. I think that's something that they're going to have to do. You're going to have to try and get Odell Beckham downfield a little bit more. Nelson Aguilar on the sidelines. I'd love to see Rashad Bateman get a bigger chunk here, but yeah, I like it. You've got enough built in there, and the possible return of Mark Andrews definitely kind of counters that Zay Flowers play. So
yes. So folks out there, go over to Underdog right now, use the promo code or hit that little QR code that Howard's directing you to right there, and they'll match your deposit up to $100, 100% of whatever you put in for first-time depositors. Use promo code ALARM, and you're going to want to do the deposit match, in my opinion, because even if you don't do it all on pickups, if you don't overdose on Scorchers the way we like to, then we're going to be doing the best balls coming up soon for baseball and for football. I mean, baseball's open now. It's already ready to rock and roll. We got a little something special for you in the Discord rolling out this week, so keep an eye out for that. But go check it out right now over on Underdog. And Howard, I wanted to talk to you because for this last segment, we're going to go in and talk about some guys to use in one and done leagues, the matchups we like. And you were just mentioning Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham. And why don't we jump in and start talking about some of those positions? I want to look at some wide receivers because I'm right with you on that. I'm down on Zay Flowers. And to be honest, I think I'm going to actually use Rashad Bateman in one of my one and dones this week. I'm going to go with Bateman. He's been getting more consistent usage. I actually like betting the over for yardage for Odell because you look at Odell and I was looking at the numbers. It's like, why would I bet the reception total for Odell? He seems to only catch 20 or 30-yard passes, right? He's either going to catch one or he's going to not, right? So I'm gonna go with the over on him there. But I like going Rashad Bateman, and I'm having a hard time deciding from the 49ers if I want to get too cute or if I want to play it safe. So I want to ask you, Deebo Samuel banged up, dealing with a bit of an MCL. He can probably play with it, but maybe not full strength. If I'm going to go with Bateman as my one wide receiver, as my other wide receiver, do I get cute and go with Juwan Jennings, or do I just play it safe and go Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If Deebo is out, I would definitely consider Juwan Jennings if they're going to do that. However, I feel like they're going to skew things towards, because remember the first half of the season, it was all Brandon Ayuk. It was Purdy to Ayuk, and we saw it multiple times. Deebo was all banged up and everything. Then Deebo came back, and that's when all of a sudden things started taking off for Deebo. I want to say it's like week 12, week 13 or something like that, where it really kind of turned around for him. So for me, I'm looking at Ayuk as the possibility. You could do Jennings if Deebo is out, but I still think that they'll steer it more towards Ayuk. So I'm going to go with Ayuk. And while you're using Rashad Bateman, I'm going to, like, when I make my decisions now for conference championships, I always keep it in one conference. Right. Because, and I'll be like, and I'll look at like the individual matchups. And as we go through the positions, we'll look at it. Brandon Ayuk, and then I'm going to throw in Jameson Williams. Right. Well, because we've seen the San Francisco secondary get beat deep. We've seen it before. And that, I think, kind of favors what we're seeing with Jameson Williams now that his route tree is also kind of growing a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I think that the 49ers are going to do what they can to try and take Amon-Ra St. Brown, at least it's somewhat out of this game. So I'm going to stay with the NFC wide receivers, go Ayuk and Jameson Williams, in that sense, because that's going to save either, Zay Flowers or Rashee Rice or somebody like that for the Super Bowl. Like I'm going to, I'll let it sort out that way. So I always stick into one conference here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what on Jameson Williams, we're so reactionary and so aggressive in like dynasty and stuff like that. Jameson Williams is the guy I'm trying to get a hold of if I can. The people that drafted him are probably starting to lose a little bit. I'm telling you, go back and look up Devontae Adams, like the articles that were written about Devontae Adams in 2015. They were literally like, should we cut this guy? People on Reddit were saying, Jeff Janis is obviously better than Devontae Adams, right? Because he had two bad years to start the season. I had this offseason, I had dynasty questions, people saying, hey, here's the end of my bench. Who do I cut? And Nico Collins is right there. And, first 2 years, 400, 500 yards, didn't crack it. People were saying, hey, we're just going to throw this guy away because, I'm telling you, with some of these guys, with him having a major knee injury and then having the suspension, we haven't really even seen the guy play. So don't get too crazy making decisions on these guys after 1 or 2 years. You never quite know. Because Devontae Adams, go back and look at the numbers for him. Look at Antonio Brown. We talked about him earlier. He didn't even do anything. And then he turned into the wide receiver one for 4 straight seasons. So that's my rant on Jameson Williams and a lot of these guys. Don't give up on the Drake Londons and these guys until you've seen them at full strength. That's all. End of rant.
Very, very wise words there, Andrew.
Yes. Let's get back to what we're doing, though. Let's jump over. Let's do quarterback, because you were just mentioning something that I think quarterback is the position where it matters most with you kind of alluded to some game theory here, right? Mm-hmm. Where in these one and dones, you've got some kind of decisions to make. You can't just straight up say, I think this guy's going to score the most points, so I'm going to start him, because you have to consider who's available, right? And who's going to be available next round.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at and I was screwing around because I saw you in the doc there as well. Because I mean, the real question is like, do I want to choose between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson now, right? Or do I want to go with either Patrick Mahomes versus the Niners, or the Niners or the Lions, or do I want Lamar Jackson against either the Niners or the Lions? So I kind of lean more towards using either Jared Goff or Brock Purdy this week, and I'd probably say from a DFS standpoint, like, because one and done, you're just looking for the 1 week anyway. Is that I feel like we're going to see Jared Goff throw a bunch in this one here. It's going to be very tough to get the ground game going. As much as I love David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff is going to need to throw. Jared Goff on the road, not great. I probably would use Brock Purdy here, but since you had already put Brock Purdy into your spot there, then I'm going to say Jared Goff. But I may or may not just want to say Brock Purdy.
You can pick the same one as me. We both kind of picked Brandon Ayuk there. We can pick the same. Hey, you know what? Most people are only making one lineup, so you don't have to get too diverse here.
Well, let's go Brock Purdy, pair him up with Brandon Ayuk.
Let's do that, because Brock Purdy. Well, I said can't just pick the guy you think's going to score the most points. I mean, he has the best matchup. The Lions are, of the teams left, the Chiefs, 49ers, and Ravens are all some of the best teams against the pass, and the Lions have not been good. They've been good against the run, not against the pass. So I think this is such an important game for Brock Purdy career-wise, to be honest, because this is a team that they should beat, that's very good against the run, and that you can throw on. So of all the game management talk, and all he has to do is hand it off and do the screens, well, his main screen guy, Debo's banged up, and it's a bad matchup for the running back. So can Brock Purdy throw the ball against a team you should be able to throw against and win this game like he should? And I think he can. So I'm going to use him in these lineups. But if he doesn't, that's when it gets crazy for the offseason discourse, because if he does lose, you have to think about the long term with some of these guys. When if they lose this year and they lose again next year, well, they're not going to fire Shanahan, they're not going to fire their GM. So where's the major shakeup come?
Well, I mean, does it need to, like, I think that I feel like Purdy is like a Shanahan type quarterback. Just get the ball into the playmaker's hands. You're not going to lose. He's not losing the game for anybody. Like, I mean, if the Niners lose it, it's not because Brock Purdy. It's because of, you got to figure out what happened. They almost lost this game to the Packers. Why? Well, your defense had some issues containing the Packers offense, and you lost Debo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey was clearly not 100%. That's my go-to move.
They better.
I can't do this on radio.
Please take that to the blue tent moving forward. Please. That guy should just stay in the blue tent.
Right? That dude he's normally in the blue tent.
That dude should live in the blue tent, please. So all right. I feel you on that. I mean, Brock Purdy, all he has to do is do his thing. The offense it's pre-made. So we're reading chat. Shane, what's up, brother? Throw especially
Twitch crew,
a little Twitch gang. Yeah, I got the Twitch glasses right here for the Twitch gang. It's been been a while since we had the Twitch gang hanging.
It really has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, good.
We're all reading the chat. What do you got? You got questions for us?
Yeah, throw stuff in there, man. Jack, we missed this one earlier. Jack asked, where do we have Tank Dell? Well, I'll tell you what, Tank Dell, he's already graduated to a guy that he was playing full-time opposite of Nico Collins and moving into the slot for 3 wide receiver sets. He's already at the level that we're hoping that JSN and Alec and Josh Downs and Jaden Reed can eventually get to. Like, he kind of just fast-forwarded to year 3 Chris Godwin. So, I have to rank Tank Dell really high, right, Howard? Assuming he comes back healthy.
Assuming he comes back healthy. I mean, he's going to be, listen, the steam on Tank Dell is going to be huge. I guarantee you he's going to probably go in the 3rd or 4th round of drafts.
Just pulled this rated rookie card right here.
Hi,
pretty much
Tank.
rich. Tank up. I'm tanked up,
Is that not in plastic?
I got cases coming
Get
today.
yourself a sleeve.
They're coming today.
Man.
They're coming in today. Okay.
Jeez Louise.
I should get my dirty fingers off of it.
Right? And Pemba's probably like cursing at the screen right now.
I was with Pemba this weekend, and he was opening packs of cards at the bar with his greasy bar cards.
Wing sauce and mustard on them. Yeah. Oh, no condiments. No condiments.
Right? He's pulls a rookie Will Levis, and he's just wiping his face. Doesn't even care. Yeah, he was very He actually did pull a rookie Will Levis worth like $20. I was like, all right, dude, that's pretty nice. So
can you say, I'm not gonna read this out loud, but
Luis Castle, truly atrocious. His fighting style is something beyond anything I've seen before. Yeah. Leo, let me give you one. You know what, Howard? Luis Castle, truly atrocious. His fighting style is something beyond anything I've seen before.
Terrible.
There you go, buddy. All right, so back to what we're doing. It's a fantasy off season. You throw whatever
did I
you
need
want
to
there.
sign a waiver for that?
Right, yeah. I don't even know who Luis Castle is, but yeah. What's this guy had? This guy's like 50,000 followers on Twitter. He's gonna put us on blast right now.
You believe what these idiots said about Luis Castle? He's the greatest fighter of all time. I can't believe these morons.
Now we're gonna get beat up by Luis Castle.
It says football up top.
That's right. Yeah, you're messing with our algorithm now, Shane. Okay, so let's do running backs, and we'll wrap it up with tight ends.
Okay,
running backs is always the toughest one for this for these one and dones, man, because. I'm so tempted to play it safe. I'll give my two names right now, and this is the safest way you can possibly play it, is if you manage to have both Gus Edwards and Justice Hill left, and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. If you were very conservative, then you can just pick one of them, right? I'm thinking that if I use Gus Edwards here, and if the Ravens are winning, then that's good for Gus Edwards. So if the Ravens win, then I use Gus Edwards, I'll still have Justice Hill, right? If the Ravens lose, well, then I can use Isaiah Pacheco or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And right, same thing with the Lions. If the Lions win, it's a David Montgomery game, and I'll have Jahmyr Gibbs left. Otherwise, then I'll still have Christian McCaffrey, hopefully. So I don't know. That's a really conservative play. If you're going to be a man about it, Howard, though, who do you like? Who do you like of the actual decisions you might have to make?
All right, well, let me pick my cojones off the ground. All right.
Quiet down, you split backfield boys. Let me tell you how a man picks an RB1 here.
Again, it's AFC versus NFC, and what do I want for the Super Bowl? And have I saved Christian McCaffrey this entire time? Do I want to use Christian McCaffrey against the Lions when I know that is right around the corner, or do I want to, what I'm looking at here is I'm saying I'm going to use Gus Edwards, possibly Justice Hill. If you don't have Gus Edwards left, then Justice Hill is certainly usable there. And then Isaiah Pacheco. And if you don't have Pacheco available, then, then maybe you can shift over to like one of the Detroit backs, right? Maybe you can do that. Or I could even possibly say that I'm just going to use Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. But I'm going to probably stay in the AFC here. So that way for the Super Bowl, I've got my pick of either McCaffrey, Gibbs, or David Montgomery. And if I've used Gibbs, which I have in one and done, then I would just go with Montgomery, in that role there. And then possibly, if I needed a running back because I didn't have one, then, you can always throw Craig Reynolds in there because who doesn't love Craig Reynolds?
Right. Yeah. You can't. Season on the line, 4th and goal. Season on the line. Season on the line, 4th and goal. Who do you go to, Howard? Gotta be Craig Reynolds.
Dude, it was so maddening. It was so because you gave the ball to Montgomery on first down, and he gets down to the 2. Then you call 2 straight pass plays like an idiot. Even Collinsworth, who is like just one of the worst, is just like, I don't know why you don't just run the ball down here 3 times.
Dude, it's just so crazy, though. Like, have you not been watching football the last couple of years? The Bengals lose the Super Bowl going to Samaje Perine. Earlier this year, the Colts lose the game going to Marlon Mack, not Jonathan Taylor, right? Or was it? No, it wasn't even Marlon Mack. It was the third guy.
Dude,
It was
offensive coordinators lose their minds near the goal line, and they feel like they've got to like just do this like crazy whacked out stupid thing. I don't throw an offensive lineman in there and tell me that he's eligible. I don't care. Just run the freaking football.
Run the ball, dude.
Right? I mean, this goes back to not using Marshawn Lynch at the 1 in the Super Bowl.
Crazy, dude. The conspiracy theories on that about, they wanted Russ to be MVP or whatever. I don't know, but
whatever it was the wrong call.
I thought it was great. I thought it was
yes, of course you did.
That's it. Like,
yeah.
Call makes a lot of sense when you boil it down.
But thinking about Mel Kiper's big board talking Drake May at 3 to the Patriots now.
Really? I've already been thinking about that in my head. It just sucks because if the other team takes Daniels ahead, then now I'm like, well, what's wrong with May? Why couldn't the Patriots lose better? All right, last position here.
I got nothing for you there.
Lose better, dude. All right, last position and the best one, our favorite one, and a very deep position in these playoffs. Every round, you've been able to make a lot of crazy options. In fact, in my baby bowl lineup, don't want to give any spoilers, but I'm using 2 tight ends this week because there's a flex and there's just not enough wide receivers and running backs to go around. Nice. Like the Lions have 1 wide receiver. The 49ers right now have 1.5. I'm using the tight end. But if you're picking one this week, Howard, to use, who are you going with?
I'm going with George Kittle. I'm going to stay in the NFC. I'm going to wait to see what happens. Do I get to use Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely, or do I get to use Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl? One of those players is going to crush it in the Super Bowl. I don't care which one it is. Right. So I'll go and I'll use, as much as I would love to use Laporta, I'm going to go with Kittle here, especially if it's a banged up Deebo Samuel. If Deebo Samuel doesn't play, come on, man. Kittle against the Lions, who give up, out of the 4 teams remaining, the Lions give up the most fantasy points per game to the tight end. So give me George Kittle in this one with a banged up Deebo.
Yeah, and that is the highest upside outcome is Kittle. And here's why. I mean, not just because Kittle has been great. Deebo's been banged up, and he has the best matchup. But what if you use Kittle and he does great and the Lions win? Now you have this tight end matchup again next week for whoever you use of Andrews or Kelce. That's the highest possible upside situation for the tight end is use Kittle and Lions win. Now you get to start a team against the Lions again next week. If you want to play a conservative, then you go with like Kelce or because, 49ers are a tough matchup for tight ends. Yeah. You don't necessarily want to be going with against them in the Super Bowl. So maybe use Kelce in that case, but I don't know. I think Kittle's the way to go. I had Kelce written on the show sheet, but I'm changing my answer to your answer.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
And you can stack them with Purdy. I mean, we just load up on 49ers now. That's the thing is like, especially if you like in the Baby Bowl, for instance, that Rob Norton does, I suggest if you folks out there, definitely for next year, for the regular season and playoffs, you should jump in that. It's for a good cause. But for something like that, I can see the other teams, right? Heath Cummings is winning right now from CBS. I can see who he's played so far. I can see how many points he has. I know I'm on tilt. So I'm with you. I'm just going to load up on 49ers and hope the 49ers go off and lose. And then now I've weaseled my way back into it. So in your leagues out there, definitely keep an eye on the gamesmanship, all that going on. We're going to jump here in a minute. So Howard, before we go, why don't we just do a couple of the picks on the key situations here? We'll start with Ravens Chiefs, 3.5 points. What do you think, man?
Ooh,
Ravens a favorite, 3.5.
Right? Yes. All right. So my lean right now, and I'll just my lean here is Ravens and covering the point spread. No, actually, I like the 3.5. I'll take the Chiefs plus the points here. If you're gonna give me that hook, I'll take the hook. Yeah, I'll take that hook. I'll go Chiefs here.
I'm a sucker for the hook.
Me too.
Especially when the line changes. Do you know what I do all the time, Howard? I say to myself, "Oh, if it was 3.5, I would take it." And then when it goes to 3.5, I feel like I have to now because I said it to myself. So
yeah. Well, because then if it goes back down to 3, you're like, "Shit!" Now I got to buy that.
Now I got to buy that extra 40 points. So yeah. Okay. Over under is 44.5. Is there play there? What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I actually would probably I'd probably tilt on the under here as well. I think that's, two defenses that are definitely rock
Like that.
solid. I mean, yes, both these guys can put up points, but the lean right now is the under.
Yeah. Ravens defense has been stifling. It's very interesting what they're doing. They feel like the cover 6 where it's like they're half cover 2, half cover 4. It's very, very confusing to watch. I can only imagine what it was like as CJ Stroud as a rookie quarterback watching these,
Oh yeah, I mean it was a perfect game plan for him. I mean, he really kept
Yes.
him on his toes the entire
Yeah.
time.
And then we got Lions 49ers. Niners touchdown favorite, 7-point favorite here. I don't know, man. I'm rooting for the Lions so hard. I know Audie Coop in the chat, rooting for Jared Goff and the gang. So I might just stay away from betting on this one and just root for miracles,
I'm rooting for the Lions. I'll tell you what the problem is, and that this is where Vegas and all the intricacies come into place. You look at this game and you're like, everybody's in on the Lions. They look great. Great running game, strong defense. Amon-Ra is sick. Jared Goff plays well, blah, 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 blah. You've got great weaponry, and this is like a team of destiny. The 49ers, Debo's hurt. Christian McCaffrey's banged up. Brock Purdy didn't look good in the last game. That kind of thing. And then, I guarantee you, here, I'll just let me look it up real quick and see where the public money is right now, because I'm sure that the public money is probably sitting on Detroit.
Yeah. Because people love it. They love, if you're in, you pop into Vegas for the weekend and you got to bet on something, you're betting on Detroit.
Yeah.
Dude.
So 52% right now leaning towards the Lions. It's 52-48 for both games. 52% on the Ravens, 52% on the Lions. So I guess I'm just fading the public in both ways, and I'm going to take the Chiefs and the Niners.
You're mean. That's you're a jerk.
All of those big, beautiful hotels in Vegas were built on the public being wrong.
It's true, though. It is true. The Vegas has only been wrong on one Super Bowl, and that was the Patriots when they were 17-0, losing to the Giants. Every other Super Bowl they've rinsed everybody on. So there you go. Also, Lions, they're going to be missing Jonah Jackson probably with a knee injury, and Frank Ragnow, our boy from Arkansas, dealing with an MCL. So, I mean, that's been the bread and butter of that line. So I feel you on that, man. All right. Well, that's it for us, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Coming up next, stay tuned on the channel because we have the Better Sports Betting Show with Dan Servadidio. Howard, you on this one?
Not today, sir. Not today.
Okay. So hang tight. They're coming up right after this, but that's it for us. Tomorrow, you can join me for Quick Out at 1:00. We're getting into some dynasty stuff. I'm having on my buddy Dave Kluge from Football Guys. And then on Friday, on Coop Scoop, on Coop's Fantasy Football, we're getting deep into free agency, man. I'm starting my free agency preview series. We're going to each episode hit on one division, and I'm going to tell you who's safe for dynasty, who's not, who could get replaced, who could come in and be a star on a new team. That's what we're doing. Going to be good times, Howard.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Coop. We'll catch